Hey, what's up? Good Saturday night to you. Welcome back to Living Color with Matt Woodward. This would be episode 16, coming to you once again from the living room. I'm happy to be back in here. I said previously that I was going to try to do more living room shows here, and, I finally kind of am improving the setup here. I finally found a little connection so I could connect the mic, because the last time I kind of was just talking, with using like my phone, and I recorded the audio like with my laptop and all that, but it just didn't come out right. So I'm glad to kind of have figured out this living room setup here, and I'm glad that you joined me here for the Saturday night again. I'm just kind of kicking it in the living room. Just so I'd kind of bust out another one of these and just kind of talk about some random things, and talk about like what some of my plans might be for not only the show but also coming up, because I'm sure if you saw like the past week or two, I've been kind of just in like a weird space, I guess, mentally, and I wouldn't say like physically, because maybe it is physically too, because I went for a run. I went for a run the other day, like last week, really. I think it was like late last week, last like Friday, so a little over a week ago now. It was my first run in a while, really, and man, I was wearing like these old running shoes I used to run with back in college. Shout out to Coach Klein out there. Thank you for the shoes back in the day. I think I got them about like 2014 or 2015, like around there, and I still have them, and they're like the really only running shoes that I have. So I broke them out and decided to go for a run, because it's so nice most days out here in Colorado that it's almost a shame not to like do something and take advantage of it, right? And so I was like, I'm just gonna go for a couple miles, and boy, oh boy, man. I mean, not only I'm out of shape, obviously, but wearing like certain running shoes makes obviously a huge difference, especially if they're old. Like your legs feel so dead, so dead. Like a few days later, it's unbelievable, really. Like I was like struggling around to walk. I'm over here like, ugh, I'm dying, and even still, it's just like, I'm trying to find like the right mix, really. I wanna get like a pair of some like hiking and running shoes. Some really I know there's like Solomon's are really like top of the line, and there's like a few other brands, but I want to find like that right mix. Cause I love running on trails, and that's really the way to do it, is just trail running instead of running on pavement and all that. Because just pavement just ruins your legs after a while. Really, it's just rough because it's not there's less resistance, I guess, and or there's more resistance. I don't know. Baked Saturday night, baked, but I was just in like a weird space, like physically and mentally, and just had like a bunch of shit to do, just like on my plate, and I couldn't really. I was just like feeling I was like overwhelmed there for a minute, and it really had to deal with like my car, basically, because I went to like the DMV the other day, and if you've been to the DMV before, obviously I'm sure you have. It's a nightmare, to say the least, and let alone trying to schedule an appointment, at the DMV during the coronavirus, and they barely answer the phones as it is, let alone now, when they're overwhelmed with calls. I'm assuming that's what they tell you. And I couldn't get a Colorado license, which was disappointing. Because I don't have like a actual mailbox at the place I'm at now, so I have like a PO box. And apparently, you can't use that to get a Colorado license, which I did not know. So now I'm just waiting. I had to like renew the Vermont one, and I'm just waiting for that. So I'm kind of like licenseless right now. I can't really go out to eat, or like get like if I want to go out to eat, you can't get a beer if you're gonna get something. Obviously you can go places, but I'm not really trying to dine out to eat. But you can't buy beer, you can't buy weed, you can't buy anything. And usually when I go out to eat, I usually get a brew. at least. And it's only right. And that's the thing. Actually, like, I've been trying to get takeout more. I sort of like the beginning of Corona. I mean, I started like this show slash. I've always said show slash podcast. I'm not really. That's one thing. I'm not really like trying to shy away from the podcast label. Really, I think I didn't want to like label it to begin with. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. Because podcasts are really. It was the future, and it is still the future, and it's kind of the now, really, so. And even still, I'm recording this just on my phone, and like I said, I got a little hookup here to connect the mic to it, so it kind of makes it, obviously, sound a lot better, and it's just a simpler way to really set it up and, like, do things, really, because before, like, the way, I've said it before, the way I was doing it was just filming, like, 12-minute, like little segments basically. Then like the camera would shut off because it's like a Canon Rebel. It's the one I would typically use, but it's not used normally for filming. It's normally for taking photos. Really, it does have like the filming function on it, but its main purpose is to take photos. So it always just times out after a while. So that's why I always have to like kind of like segment everything together. Really. Kind of like post, after the show, but with this, it's just kind of like I'm just rolling off the top of my head, which is kind of like the purpose. And what I was gonna say is that, some thoughts of like what I'm trying to do with this is like, I think I'm just trying to make it more. I'm not trying to make it a news show. I'm not trying to comment on everything that happens in the world and everything like that. There's some things you obviously can't deny. Like the George Floyd murder, and Breonna Taylor murder, which those officers still haven't been arrested for some reason. And I just don't, I don't feel like I should be commenting or, talking on every single thing, but, because I'm not really in a position to, really, I don't have, like, the knowledge, I don't have the, the background of things, really, and so that's why, like, I'm just trying to make it more, like, kind of like story-based, but also you got to talk about, like, current events, for sure, and that's also what I'm trying to do, but, like, just kind of mix it in a little bit more, and I think at the start, this is the last, like, few episodes, or, to start, I think I've been a little too, like, like, topic-based, like, going through the news, and it's kind of like people are, I feel like people would want to, like, tune into this, because I'm just talking about random shit, and bringing up memories and, like, stories that, maybe people can relate to or find funny or something, Because I have plenty of them, God knows, at this point, really. And that's what this is, man. This is just hanging on a Saturday night, really. And I was just thinking, like, I'm finally, like, starting to get into a few different things, really. One of them being Neil Young, believe it or not. I don't know how it's taken me, really, like, this long to get into Neil Young. I was always into him before, and I always knew Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. And I always knew Neil Young's solo work, and also with, Crazy Horse, his band. And, now that he released that album, Homegrown, just recently, I think this past week, I've been sort of, like, bumping that a little bit and getting into that, and I'm like, man, and this is, like, a lost album, that he didn't release. Like, it was, like, one of two albums that he was going to release at the time. And I believe he played it at, like, the Chateau Marmont. And I hope I said that right. In Los Angeles, like, the famous hotel, where I believe John Belushi died. And, like a few others. Or it's just like a famous hotel, really. Like I believe John Belushi died in like a bungalow there, like one of the bungalows. And I believe they played this record, like these. I believe Neil Young played these two records, homegrown, and I can't remember what the other name is. I believe it's something in the night, like that. It's something in the night. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm sure you. I'm gonna get killed for this for however long down the road. I'm sure, but I'm sure I'll probably try to bring it up in the next episode or two because like I said, I'm just trying to get into Neil. Not that I haven't heard Down by the River or Heart of Gold or Old Man. Like those classic tracks. I've heard those. Tracks from like Harvest, like Harvest Moon, but I'm not really too adjusted with Neil Young, really, and now that I'm starting to get into him, I'm like, I'm watching like his interviews from back in the day, and talking about his Woodstock performance and how he's like left out of the Woodstock film because he, was aggressive towards the camera operators that were like in front of the stage, which is kind of crazy because I'm one of the camera, I'm a part-time camera operator, for shows, and it makes sense why, I also produce music and create music. I think I mentioned it before, and, I've played shows. And, not to say that I've played shows where I've had camera operators or photographers in my face, because that's never really happened with me, besides, like, my friends taking photos or something. But I've never had, a shit ton of photographers, like, or, trying to video camera rain in your face like that, And so apparently Neil Young was, he got pissed. Or he was already, kind of intense, he said before the show. I believe he was talking about on Howard Stern. And I believe he mentioned in like a Charlie Rose interview too before, where he was kind of just talking about, he was already like intense going into it, and, he wasn't taking shit from anybody really. And that's kind of always his classic attitude at this point, and that's just Neil, right? That's just Neil Young. And he basically told him, I have a heavy guitar and I'll whack the shit out of you with it if you get close to me. Get the hell out of my face or I'll whack you with this damn guitar. I'll smack you with it. And so that's why I believe they cut him out of the Woodstock film. He's like barely ever shown in it, I believe. Like I don't think he's ever shown it. And they even cut his name out of, the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It's just Crosby, Stills, Nash. And I believe they said it like out of order, so they had to like edit it out. That's how, at least that was like what Neil was saying, I believe, on a Howard Stern there. And it's crazy. He's like I said, I'm recording this in Colorado, and he lives in Telluride, which is probably 3 hours from where I'm at. And that's a place I'm always trying to get down to. It's just Telluride, because it's an incredible place, and just to think Neil's down there, and he's just somewhere in Telluride. I believe his studio's called like Studio in the Clouds or something like that. Studio in the Sky. Like somewhere outside Telluride. And just to think, yeah, he's out there on his ranch just dropping old, throwaway records like Homegrown, where it's just like he's had it for 40 years, or whatever. And now all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, here we go. I'm going to drop it out of the blue. And it sounds amazing. Like, kind of what you would, come to expect from a Neil Young record. That's kind of what I'm coming to realize, because, I've been watching also, like, Tom York, the legendary, shout out to Tom York, the legendary Radiohead frontman. He was talking about Neil Young and, the After the Gold Rush album. And I was actually listening to a couple tracks from that earlier today, just trying to be like, oh, let me see what it's about, because I've heard of the album before, and my dad's a massive music fan. That's something my dad, I'm sure, I don't know if I've mentioned it, he has like, I think four 180 gig iPods at this point, full of music. I know at least three, easily three, easy. and the fourth one's probably halfway full. Like, he knows that much music. So he's a massive Neil Young fan, and he played his music when I was a kid. So that's kind of how I heard like Heart of Gold and Old Man and those kind of tracks. But then you hear like Harvest you hear Homegrown, and you're like, you know, he said those songs were too personal for him, and at the time, because he was kind of going through I believe a divorce, and then he had a kid at the time, and it's an amazing album. So just to think, like, he had two of those albums, like, and he's just like, you know what, I'll pick this one, and then I'll just I'll keep this one for later. I'll save it for later or whatever. It's incredible. Shout out to Neil Young, wherever he is in Colorado or wherever at this point. Speaking of which, I'm still sipping that strawberry Gatorade. I've talked about it before. Speaking of which, it's kind of it's on the topic of music, but it's kind of it's a different genre, obviously. But I saw Snoop Dogg posted a video on his Instagram where he was in the studio with Dr. Dre and Kanye West. And he whispered, Kanye West has some hot shit. He was like, it's coming. He's like, watch out. And, he was saying that Kanye and Dr. Dre have some incredible music coming. And, it's kind of one of the things I was thinking, is that it's tough for me right now because Kanye for me right now, he's kind of at the bottom, not the bottom of the totem pole, but he fell so far for me. Just, I don't know. I don't even know if you call them antics. I think, he obviously went through like a public meltdown, almost 2 years ago. And on stage, really, in the middle of the Life of Pablo tour, or the second leg of it, I believe. I can't really remember because I had tickets to like the Albany, New York show, and I know that was the second leg, and that got canceled, and that was like, I think it was like 2 months before, like the show was gonna happen that he canceled, and it was right in the middle of the tour, and I still have the tickets for that show. And it's like, at one point, Kanye was my life inspiration for my whole life up until about 2013, 2012. Yeah, somewhere around there. Right about like, probably around like Yeezus, around that era of, when he started. He musically at that point was, it was groundbreaking, right? Because it was kind of like, Yeezus at the time just seemed sonically was like, holy shit, right? You're like, what? And then like the lyrics were still there, right? It seemed, on some tracks you're like, ooh. But it's crazy that in that time, man. The Life of Pablo was still a pretty damn good album, right? There's still a lot of good tracks on that album. But, Yay, like that wasn't, obviously it's, 7 tracks, when he was doing the 7-track albums. Wyoming, which is where he's at, I believe he's out in L.A. with, Dre and Snoop Dogg. But he's out in Wyoming with the whole Yeezy supply, whatever he's doing out there. Campus, I believe he's trying to build. And it brings to that a new topic, which is like that. Not this, like I said, I don't want to go through topics, but Kanye signing that 10-year deal with Gap to produce, clothing, Yeezy clothing for cheap. Well, not cheap, but affordable. I shouldn't say cheap, affordable, which was always his goal, which is incredible, and something I look forward to seeing what, because it's some like, I don't know, like, just because, I try to think through it. Why did he fall so far from me? Was it politically? Because he's, publicly supported Trump and then showed up at the White House and, all that whole crazy meeting and, talks about the whole MAGA hat or whatever. That definitely had something to do with it, I'd say. But, was it also the public meltdown and canceling of the tour and, the kind of like the hospitalization, I believe, like a mental breakdown. You can't kind of pin someone's that's the thing. You can't really pin someone's like a breakdown like that on somebody because I think people have to understand, like, and I'm sure people do, the reason why I feel like, Kanye would have I'm sure people have whatever opinion that they might on it, but I feel like the reason why that might happen, is because you gotta think he's one of the biggest artists on the planet at the time, or throughout his career. He did what he said he always would do, become one of the biggest artists, beyond that MJ level, that Michael Jackson level, where really no one's making music like him. Not to say that he it's not dancing like like MJ, but it's about making incredible music. And throughout his entire career, no one's made really. There's I can't say no one, but there's very few musical acts that have made better albums consistently than Kanye West in music. Not even hip hop or rap. Think about it, right? College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, 808s and Heartbreak, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Watch the Throne, and all the way through Yeezus, Life of Pablo, and all the way up. He's like all the way. You get to that point, and it's you. Even you get to that Life of Pablo. The expectation is so high. For Yeezus, the expectation is so high. He has to change, sonically in a way. And he's married, and you think, people forget, he's married to the biggest social media star in the world. If she's not the biggest, Kim Kardashian. If she's not, she's top 3, top 5. And one of the most influential, and someone who's constantly in, she can't go out in public without having pictures taken of her anywhere, let alone her and, her and Kanye at the same, it's like they're shutting down blocks of places at a time. So it's like, of course he's going to have a mental, and he's always trying to push the envelope. That's what he's known for. It's just, it's almost like, what can you do to get the most attention, So that's why when I see Snoop, post on his Instagram, I believe it was yesterday, being like, Kanye has some hot shit coming. Am I still excited? Yeah, I'm still excited. But do I look forward to it nearly as much as I did? No. Right? And it's interesting because, like, if you had told me even 5 years ago, like Kanye and Dr. Dre or something, not even 5 years ago, like maybe, nah, yeah, probably 5 years ago, like 2015. If you told me Kanye, Dr. Dre, and Snoop, if I would have saw the same video in 2015, I would have lost my shit. I would have been sitting on Twitter every day, staring at my phone, waiting, right? And now it's just like I'm seeing it, I'm just like, okay, I'm excited to hear it. I'll hear it, but am I like sitting on my phone waiting for it? No, you know, I'll hear it when I hear it, kind of thing. And that kind of, can he ever get that back? Can Kanye ever get back to the status that he was at? I don't know. It's that's tough, man. Because, like I said, that man was my biggest inspiration of life, man. I went to Coachella 2011. I was at Coachella 2011. Seeing the Strokes play right before Kanye, you know. And even Julian Casablancas joking on stage, "Who's next?" He seemed like he was pretty drunk at the time. He's like, "Who's next? Kanye?" Oh, like he was just Kanye, cool, something like that. But I wasn't even really aware of the Strokes at the time. Really, my dad had to tell me. I wanted to make sure I was, front and center for Kanye West, because this was, like I said, this was for Dark Fantasy at Coachella 2011. Dark Fantasy. This was like the first big performance, pretty much since the whole Taylor Swift thing too, and he was my biggest musical inspiration at that point for sure. Like Graduation, like Alone, Graduation, and 808s and Heartbreak. Come on, right? So, and then, my dad even said, like, just seeing that performance, he said, my dad's been like I've talked about, his musical knowledge is endless. I'm hoping I should try to get him on. Really, I'm gonna try to get him on this show to try, to talk about it, talk about his favorite albums and his favorite shows that he's seen. Because he even said he's been to over 300 shows in his life, and that Kanye performance at Coachella 2011 was the best performance he's ever seen. He's seen Elton in the 70s, like he's seen all of them. And he said Kanye, man. And it's the same. I'll never see a better performance than that. And then just to see him, keep going up from there. Really, with Watch the Throne with Jay-Z, and then, where he's, creating incredible shoes constantly, this and that, and just. But man, now all of a sudden, 2020, it's like, you hear Kanye West, and you're like, ooh, like. I still have love for Ye, obviously, but you can't let somebody, I don't know. I can't just, his music will live with me forever, But I just, like I said, am I as excited? I'm not. But at the same time, I'm also, everybody has like those weird, kind of like phases, where you listen to certain things at points, and, I'm just not really listening to Kanye right now. I mean, I always come back to him. He's always one of those artists that you come back to. There's certain ones like that, I wonder who it is out there for you. I'm thinking that, right now I'm coming back to Radiohead, kind of coming back to Neil Young, like I said, kind of getting back into discovering Neil Young. There's a few of them, I'm not really a big Arctic Monkeys fan, but that "Do I Want to Know" song is incredible, and yeah, it's such a like it's a fun thing to like get back into like finding music. That's one of the best things to do. I feel like on the internet is like finding music, like doing deep dives. I don't know. I'm always just feeling it out. That's the best thing about just like doing this free form. Like I'm already a half hour into this. I'm just vibing, just hanging and talking. You know, uh, I think one of the things, like kind of getting back to where I started, like one of the things that was like bumming me out really was that you kind of forget how much it costs to take care of a freaking car, right? You know, uh, I had just paid like 500 for tires, brand new tires. Thank God I had to do it. But then all of a sudden you're like, yep, you got to get the alignment too. You're like, wait, so that's another like $60, $70? Like, damn. But at the same time, you gotta remember, like that's obviously like the most important thing, right? It's like you gotta get that shit done, because if you don't, like, you don't want your wheel falling off. Like that's one of the things that like scares me, right? Is I don't want to be somewhere, like especially like a ways away from where I live, and have like a wheel fall off, and not know how to change the tire. I sort of have like a good idea how to. I've never been put in that situation. Knock on wood. But uh, yeah, that's something that's like, it's scared me. Like it's like, man, if my wheel fell off somewhere, if I'm like in Yellowstone or something, like, and all of a sudden you get a flat tire, you're like, I mean, I'm sure there's good people out there, that'll help you too. But and I have like I said, I have like a good sense. You gotta put the jack, under the frame, and this and that, and but it's just a situation that you don't want to put yourself in, then, especially because you just saved money at the time, right? But it just sucks because it's like I'd forget how much it costs to to invest in your car, right? It's like, man. Yes, sir. Saturday night, late night. Yeah, still feeling it though. Still feeling a little weird, like in a funk. Uh, I think it's kind of natural though. It's like there's only so much you can do during this crazy time. You can't really do much during quarantine, and especially being like single, right? Like I don't really I'm not really sure how to get back into like the dating game. Like how do you do it right now? Besides like the dating apps. I feel like that's all you can really do is just do dating apps. Like, and even then I kind of gave up on like doing like Tinder and Bumble. I don't really go on those anymore. Like especially Bumble, like and both of those, Bumble and Tinder. I don't go on either of those really anymore. It's just a waste of time. I couldn't even tell you the last time I've hung out with anybody off of either of those. It's years probably. You know. And that's the thing. It's always like it's always like, is that the last like chance? Is that the last hope? Is just dating apps? Because if it is, I've never really seen anybody, or it's such a rare thing that you actually see somebody on there that you look like you want to be with, or like you could see yourself being with. Like I hardly ever see it. It's such. So I mean, if that's what it's come to, then I don't know. I don't know if I have a hope in this anymore with this, right? It's just, but then you see, like, it works for some people though. That's what kind of, that's why I'm like, maybe I should like keep going on it. Even like go on it like once every week, or not week, every 2 or 3 weeks, even month. Like, it's just like I'm never on that thing. But then you see it does work for people. Like, some people will find like they're like, like their life match on there, and you're like it's legendary. But I think there's kind of like more to it though. Like, as how, you always gotta kind of figure out how to navigate right through it, right? Like, you always notice that, like, it's kind of crazy that the restaurants and, not bars. I haven't been to any bars, but I'm like I said, I'm trying to do takeout more. Like, I'm trying to get takeout a little bit more and support some local businesses, and the restaurants are packed back, out here. But at the same time, they're doing like a good job of they're social distancing. Like, they're not like people on top of each other or anything like that. But it's still like, man, people are they're just going for it, huh? Like, they don't. You just gotta get back out there, I guess. But at the same time, you look at places like Texas, Florida, Arizona. I believe like Phoenix specifically is skyrocketing in cases. And I believe I saw something like Fresno where like the hospital's overwhelmed right now again, or not again, but is overwhelmed. It's just like, oh God, like, they're talking about that second wave, It can happen. It's happening. It can happen anywhere. But that's the thing. Like, some places took that like risk, right? Where they opened up a few weeks too early just to try to like get the economy back going, I guess, or to get some of the small businesses back going. And next thing you know, you're seeing this is what you're seeing. Then you see places like New York where it was really bad to start. Once everybody stayed inside, and if they were out, everybody had a mask basically. I know that that's obviously, there's people out there that didn't wear masks in New York and everywhere really, because you see it here. I feel like I'm seeing less people wear masks really, even at like Walmart and stuff like that. You go to Walmart, there's I wouldn't say 50%, but 35, 40. Like, it's probably 35% people aren't wearing masks, and they're all people that are over 40. Really, like, they're all like, not to say 40's old, but definitely in their 40s and 50s, and they're not wearing masks. And then you definitely see kids that aren't, that look like they're in like high school or something, that are just kind of like, hey. But then, yeah, when you see places like New York, how they kind of shut it down after they got, they were the epicenter of it for a while when there wasn't as much information going around or about it. Now all of a sudden they're kind of like, they're on the decline really. And it's like, I wonder, everybody was always saying about another wave before, like a reopening, Like, everybody was saying there's already going to be a second wave, And then places started to reopen like a month ago or a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden you're on the rise again, and it's like, how long is this going to last, man? It's bumming me out. It's just, it's like, I can't take it anymore, It's just quarantine, man. And not to say that like I don't get out or don't do anything, because I'm trying to take full advantage of it, really. But it hasn't been easy, that's for sure. You know. But you see that there's definitely like ways to, I've said it before, there's ways to kind of manage it. And I always, like I said, I'm trying to write down things a little bit more. And I'm also trying to do a new rock project, like I've mentioned before. I'm trying to create a whole new music project, thank God. Not to say I'm not trying to continue doing the WDY project, but I'm definitely going to create a new music project. I'm already in the full swing of it, but no, I'm always trying to, like, I always do reminisce a little bit too, like, think about, like, just, like, legendary times, back in the day. Like, things, just, if you're ever in, like, a bad mood, you always kind of, like, look back at, like, what was better, really. And man, yeah, just going to Castleton, now Castleton University, being a part of the first class, shout out, 2016, even though I did 5 years there. I don't regret it at all. I didn't want to go there. I've said it before, I didn't want to go there. I wasn't sure. I wanted to go to a big school, and there wasn't really much that made me want to go to Castleton. My brother was going there. Not to say that that was like a bad thing, because it kind of gave me somebody that I knew instantly, and I could run. I had the ability to run cross country there, and but it was just like I didn't really want to be, go there. But looking back now, it's like, man, I don't know. It worked out perfectly. Like, there's no place I would have rather been. And I kind of realized that within my first few months there. My freshman year at Castleton was legendary. 2011, 2012, like, the parties at the cross country house, like, on Main Street there, that brown house on Main Street, right up the hill. Right across from Sem there, Sem Road. Or Red House, too. All of that. Just, yeah, Red House, that was legendary too. DJing in the basement of Red House, that was like, those were like my first shows live, They have like this huge basement and, kind of classic college house. It was kind of like I think it was like a one level house, like a 1-story house, and then just a basement was massive, right? And threw massive parties down there, and 2 huge speakers, right? And there was like this aux cord, and I always just show up and just plug in my aux and fucking turn that place up. It was those were my first shows, and just thinking back on it, it was like, man, it was legendary. And I always just going through Castle, and I always be like going through that town, man. And yeah, just seeing the cross country house and Sem, the whites there, out there, way out there, like the white apartments or whatever. I'm just trying to remember hockey house, Exit 5, just classic, and. Just like everything about it. DJing on the radio, like at WIUV, 91.3 WIUV. I'm going to try to see if I have like some shows from there. I definitely don't have like clips of me like talking on the radio. Because, I didn't have I had a mic, but my mic wasn't synced into my like Ableton or anything like that, so I couldn't record the audio. I'm sure I could find it online or rip it or something, off a stream or something like that, but I definitely have some mixes still from WIUV. And just, yeah, being able to do that every Thursday night, you know. Uh, oh man, yeah, and just everything about it, playing shows, running cross country, meeting so many amazing people. Uh, it was incredible, you know, and it's like I don't know what I would have done without it. And even going to my freshman year, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. You know, I knew I wanted to kind of get into like broadcast media, you know, kind of doing this ultimately, you know, what I'm doing now, just kind of bullshit and talking in front of a camera with a mic. But to kind of go through that, you kind of had to go through like the basics, you know, of like video production and all that, and kind of learn how to produce like a newscast, you know, and it's like, yeah, I don't know where I'd be without it, you know. I don't know where I'd be without it. I love Castle, man. And then it's like, I just hope that, you know, it's an institution to me. You know, it's like, I believe that's the right word. You know, where it's something that I feel like should never go away. You know, because it's one of the oldest colleges in the country. I think it's like 17th or something like that. That might be wrong. Don't quote me. I might be making that one up, but I know it's like wicked old. You know, like 1787, I believe. So it's up there. Not to say it was a college then, but you know, it was a school of something, like way back. So it's one of the oldest in the country, right? So when I see, you know, like the whole Northern Vermont University, you know, what they were gonna fold and now they're not, thank God, right? You know, when I saw that, it's like it scares me. It's like, man, are they gonna do something to Castleton eventually one day? You know, it's like, are there never gonna be well, is there gonna get to one point where there's not enough kids going there, not enough money flowing through that, not enough funding? You know, that, you know, it kind of goes, cause like you look at Green Mountain College, you know, that's a beautiful little college in Poultney, Vermont, only like 10, 15 miles away from Castleton, where I went to school. Beautiful college. I raced there a few times. You know, not Southern Vermont University, Green Mountain College. Sorry. And it's a tremendous, tremendous college, and now it was. A tremendous campus. You know, you drive down the main street, and then you see like kind of like the gates, you know, way down Main Street. Like you can just see it driving down Main Street. It's like way down. You're like, oh my God, that's the college, right? And then you see like the steps on a building through like the gates there, and kind of like you know, like it's beautiful, nice brick, huge brick buildings, beautiful little campus. And now it's just gone. It's not a college anymore. In Southern Vermont, that's another college. I mentioned Southern Vermont, right outside in Bennington. You know, now that is gone, I believe, and so it kind of just makes you wonder, like, damn, what is the future like the Vermont school system like? And that's just a minor, a small picture, right? Because it's kind of a bigger picture. If you think about the bigger picture, what's the state of the education system in the country, right? Because it needs reforming. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's so many things that need reforming at this point. But, like, the education system, it's like, the way you learn things, I feel like, the perspective that you learn things, it obviously makes a difference. And, you know, and I don't know, the impression that you get from historical figures, you know, it doesn't paint their full picture, I guess, you know. And you're kind of seeing that when you see these monuments or these statues being torn down, you know, like Christopher Columbus. It's a prime example. You know, he's someone that we were always taught was like, you know, like a a legendary explorer, and he founded America, and he made peace with the Indians on Thanksgiving, and they had this great big dinner, and he this and that, and you come to find out he was a scumbag. I mean, the complete opposite, basically, of what we were told. Like he was horrible. There's a lot of that, you know. When you think of even a guy like Robert E. Lee, General Robert E. Lee, right? Yeah, he was a Civil War general. Led the, he was he's the general of the Army of the South, right? Or the commander of the Army of the South, whatever. He's the leader. I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. Bake, like I said, bake. Saturday night, 12:05, or Sunday morning, 12:05. Here we are. What do you want me to do? But no, like you learn about Robert E. Lee, and you're like, I don't know. He's just like you learn that he's a Civil War general, but then you realize he was like a brutal slave master or slave owner, and I mean that goes for so many, right? But like that's not what their statute says or anything. Obviously, it kind of says like here's General Robert E. Lee, blah blah blah, leader, commander of the South Army, whatever it is, Northern Virginia, whatever he was. But yeah, it makes you wonder, makes you think. And there's a lot, man, even just out here. It's something I wanted to touch on is that the way we learn things is crazy. Like the whole Elijah McClain case. That's something I haven't even mentioned on this whole show. And that happened out here in Colorado. This poor kid, this poor young black man, just walking home from the store. Apparently he had a full like face mask on last summer, pre-COVID, obviously. And walking home at night, someone said ski mask or whatever, but I believe it was just like a mask because he was like amnesic or whatever. I believe that's the word. I'm not sure. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but and he's just walking home, and someone called him a suspicious person, dancing or whatever. But then they said they're not a threat, and they don't appear to be a threat or anyone. They didn't commit a crime, just suspicious, because he was just dancing and listening to music, walking down the street, and he looked suspicious because he had like a little mask while he was doing it. And it's like, oh man, like, and how does that turn into a murder? Like, how does he die? Like, he didn't commit any crime. And then all of a sudden, like, some officers come up on him and try to arrest him, and then they, like something, a whole confrontation ensues where they tackle him on the ground, and they say on the video he's reaching for your gun, but he's not. Like, what is he, like 5? They say he's like 5'7", 140 pounds or something like that. And they're saying he had, crazy strength or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's the strength that you have when you're fighting for your fucking life, dude. When you feel like you're about to die. That's when your adrenaline kicks in, right? And then it comes to find out, you think that it was the Aurora PD, because they're a real bunch of, bozos over there. You should look up the Aurora Police Department, Aurora, Colorado. Aurora, Colorado. Say that one 5 times fast. But those bozos over there, you should check out their freaking past couple of years history. Not even. Like, they murdered Elijah McClain, but they arrest James Holmes, who murdered however like 12 people in that Batman movie, screening at midnight there a few years ago in Aurora. But then it comes to find out that it was a member of the Aurora Fire Department who administered a dose of ketamine to sedate Elijah McClain. But it was like a lethal dose, like a crazy amount. And it's like, why the fuck are you injecting him with a needle, injecting him and giving him ketamine for resisting arrest for doing nothing? And his like last words, you can hear him say, he's just like, he's like, I'm a vegan. I don't hurt anybody. I don't even hurt flies. Like, I'm sorry. I love you. Like this and that. Like, those are his last words where he's like he's like, you're a beautiful, like he's big, like, you can't even imagine what he's saying. He's saying like, I love you and like, you're beautiful and that we don't have to do this. And like, I don't hurt flies. And then he like starts vomiting, and he's like, he apologizes for vomiting, and then I believe he had like 2 heart attacks or something like that, and suffered like some brain damage or I don't know, and then passed away. Or I'm not exactly sure what the what. All I know is he was murdered. And the fact that, it's about to be July 2020, and you're just hearing about this when it happened in August 2019. And then you hear the district attorney, Dave Young. That fucking bozo. What was he saying? What did Dave Young say? He said it wasn't, like that wasn't the cause of death. Or it was like a narrow artery or something like that. It's like, really, dude? How else did he die? You think he died any other way other than being injected with ketamine and getting like, God knows what, restrained or whatever, strangled? God knows what was happening. He threw up. It's like, how can you, imagine trying to tell that to the family. Being like, well, the cause of death it wasn't the dose of ketamine. It wasn't the strangulation from the police. It wasn't it was a narrow artery or vessel or whatever. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? That can't be real. Like, imagine saying that to your family. Imagine if someone said that to your family, old guy. Huh? Imagine if someone said that about your daughter or your son or whatever. And said that was how they died instead of the lethal injection of ketamine for resisting arrest, for walking down the street, listening to music and dancing and enjoying life. Really, dude? You want to talk about embarrassing? Your ass should be fired. Your ass is going to be fired. Not only fired, you're voted out or something. Get the fuck out of here. And I saw that, thank God, the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, I'm not really a big fan of him either, but he's not terrible, I wouldn't say. But then you come to find out he has a shit ton of money. I don't even really know how he got it. And it's like, he's like 30 or 40 billion or something like that. And you're like, that guy? And I believe it's billion. It's either 30 or 40 billion or 30, 40 million. I know it's a big difference, but he's a shit ton of money. But I know he signed I believe it was an executive order looking into or he signed some sort of, he initiated some sort of process, to start like reopen the investigation. And like about time, man. You can't have this. How's this? There's no justice in that, and like that's the thing. You know what I was thinking? It's like imagine getting pulled over by one of those officers. Could you imagine? Like, and then you recognize him. You're like, wait a minute. You're one of the 3 cops who murdered Elijah McClain. Or you were part of the murder. He'd be alive today if it weren't for you. Right? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to touch on every single national topic, but when I see something that, ugh, you don't even know. I don't even know what to say. It's disgusting. And then you just read his backstory. Read more about him. You just look at the picture of him. Look at the picture that's circulating around of him, where it's just a close up of him just smiling at the camera. You're telling me that fucking dude's gonna. That dude wouldn't hurt like he said he wouldn't hurt a fly. He has like the brightest smile, man. Like he looks like he's just looking for love. Looking for, he's just happy. Not even looking for happiness. He's just happy. He looks like he's just happy. He's playing violin for kittens and cats at animal shelters in his spare time. You just see that video of him when he walks into the room. He's just like, he lights up the room. And it's like, that kid, man, you injected that man with ketamine? Of course his instincts are going to kick in when he's being wrestled to the ground for resisting arrest for doing nothing. How can you arrest somebody for doing nothing? Like, I don't understand that. How can you just, stop somebody? Like, and then just be like, hey, man, what's up? Like, and try to talk to him. He's not doing anything. I mean, obviously, the cops got called in and they have to respond or whatever and have to see what the complaint is. But it's like, who the fuck is that citizen out there? Like, imagine being the citizen, too, who called that in. And then you realize, like, oh, my God, I was the one who... I'm sure they don't fucking think that, right? Because they're probably too stupid to think that. Because that's probably not the first time they've done that. They felt comfortable enough to do that. You tell me that was the first time they've done it? But it's just like, imagine being that person who called that in. And now all of a sudden, I mean, it kind of went by the wayside for over a year, So they probably didn't feel too bad. But now all of a sudden, it's like that person should be called out right now too. No, that's what I think. That's how I feel. They fucking called that in for a suspicious person walking down the street. Like, listen to music. Because they had like a mask on at night. And they were black. That's the factor, right? That is. Let's face it. I just think, obviously people are going to say, well, you had a mask on. How are they supposed to know? This is pre-COVID, If you saw someone walking down the street at night with a mask on, dancing or whatever, making moves, like, you'd think it's weird too. Yeah, it might be a little weird, but I wouldn't think to call the cops. I wouldn't call the cops and be like, there's a suspicious man. Obviously they said that, they didn't commit a crime and didn't look like they were causing any trouble, but why call the cops then? You called the cops for nothing. Because you thought something? You thought something was up? You wanted to be, the white knight. You wanted to save the day. save the community. I'm gonna be the one to call the cops. Yeah, look what you did now. You took a young man's fucking life for nothing. Probably scared the shit out of him when those cops rolled up. Could you imagine? He probably was bumping music in his zone, probably having a great time, feeling it, dancing, not knowing what's around, just kind of hanging. And all of a sudden, they probably came up from behind, I'm assuming. Or, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Even if they came from up front. Either way, I'm sure that would have freaked me out. I'd be like, especially if they stopped, and approached me. From the front, that would freak me out. Imagine if they did it from behind. You'd be like, holy shit. That'd be enough to make me almost start running. I'd probably start fucking running. Because I'd be like, I didn't do anything. Why you, like, what do you want? What do you want from me? Right? How crazy does that sound? I would almost think to start running. I'm gonna be honest. Imagine if they came up from behind you and you're just sitting there dancing. You don't hear anything. You're just like bumping music. And you just like, all of a sudden you just kind of peek behind your back and all of a sudden they're right there, like a couple cops are right there. 3 cops? I don't know if it was 3 initially because it was 3 over that are, removed from active duty or whatever the hell that means. Where they're just, I believe they're like placed on desk duty or something. I'm assuming that's what that means. That's what I've been reading. But imagine if they were just like, even one cop was right there. It'd be enough to be like, holy shit, dude. Like, it made me jump. I'd probably take out my headphones and be like, whoa, like, what's up? But if not, if they're a ways away, I'd probably be like, fuck this, But imagine if they approached you from the front. That'd be enough to be like, oh my, are they stopping? Okay, they just stopped over there. And now they're crossing the street, and they got their lights on. Oh shit. Okay, all right. What the fuck, That freaked me out, dude. Could you imagine being poor Elijah McClain, man? And no justice. Even to this day, right? I mean, now you're seeing it's finally starting to happen, but it's like, if there wasn't like a national uproar about it, and noise still hadn't been made about it, like, what would have ever happened? What would have ever came from this, Like, people wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known, And I live in Colorado. And it's like, and like I've said before, the thing that gets me is like, this is happening now, and that one didn't really happen on camera. I know that there was like a body camera, but I believe they said it was like discharged or something like that. One of the, but, like, imagine how many times this happened before where it wasn't on camera. There wasn't any cell phone video. No bystander was filming it across the street or, on the sidewalk or anything. No one around. Just a cop and a black man, or a person of color, anything. But, mainly black man or, a black person or a person of color. And there was no camera, just a cop and them. They could write their own story at that point. Write their own report. Oh, he was resisting arrest. He reached for my gun, so I, eliminated the threat or whatever. And who can say it's basically the judge has to decide. It's the cop's word against the family's attorney. At that point, there's no evidence. There's no body camera. And that happened for years. And then the whole Rodney King incident happened in L.A. in the early 90s, where it was finally on camera, where they, at least black people finally had, evidence where it was like, police brutality. We've been telling you people that this has been happening. And now you see it on camera. But then, they get acquitted. Those officers. And then and that's the thing. Even still, when it's on camera, these officers are being acquitted, man. They're just walking away free. You got to be shitting me. Eric Gardner, all that. Michael Brown, probably, Actually, I believe them. I'm not really. I can't remember them, but there's just so many instances. Man, and even still, like, when this happens, people are always like, well, they bring up the past, everybody's past, right? And they always try to justify, like, why it happens. And it's like, just, whatever happened doesn't deserve the death penalty. Like, these cops don't play judge, jury, and executioner. And you see that? I've been seeing that phrase. It's true. That's not their fucking job, man. Their job is to serve and protect, or protect and serve the community, whatever, But like I've mentioned, half the time these cops aren't familiar with the communities that they're policing. They're in a new community that they've never really been in before. They don't really know any members of the community. They don't know key figures in the community. They don't know who to reach out to for certain community members to get like the grasp or feel of the sense of the community, or what's happening. They don't know who to look to, or half of them. Obviously, half is sort of a generalization, just kind of a throwing it out there number. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than half. These police officers who are working for departments in areas that they've never grown up in, or that they've never lived in for longer than 5 or 10 years. And that makes a difference, man. It makes a big difference. And that was one of the things I thought could be like, a way to improve police relations with, with communities across the nation. You gotta have police officers who are, who have not necessarily grown up in that area, but who are accustomed to that area, who know, who've been there long enough to know, sort of like, the nuances and the ins and outs of it, where, damn near, not damn, every community member, because, certain communities are obviously bigger than others, you in certain, there's cities, cities and towns, but when you're in like a town, especially in like Vermont, because that's where I'm from, that's really what I can, relate it to, I guess, in upstate New York. It's like those towns aren't more than, 10, maybe Burlington, 60,000 people, 70,000 people, It's like, you damn near know everybody in the community. You almost know everybody. And you almost have seen everybody. If you've been there for 5 years, you've damn near seen everybody there is to see, and then some. You've seen their damn kids, right? So then you know them. You kind of build a relationship with them. You bump into them every other day, because that's who you see, and that makes a huge difference. But like I said, you're just seeing this happen more and more. And no justice is being, now justice is starting to be served, but it's like, look what people have had to go through to get that. And it's like, that should never have been the case. Should be, this should have happened instantly. Elijah McClain, those cops should have been fired and, investigated and then charged immediately, for their role. Especially that EMT or whoever that, Aurora Fire Department member is too. They should be investigated. They should be fired, investigated, and then charged. Right? You murdered that young man. That's not your job. How's that protecting and serving? He's 5'6", 5'7", 140 pounds. And Breonna Taylor. That's another one. Still going, no arrests. So, I don't know. Just hope things